Hello, I'm Debbie Good. I'm one of the social workers here at Niagara North Family Health Team, welcoming you back to session number 3 of CBT for insomnia. Today, we're going to focus on learning how to do a progressive muscle relaxation. We'll be reviewing our sleep diaries that you started our last session. We'll look at improving our sleep environment, and we will start to work on scheduling some sleep times. So I'll invite you to just sit back and get relaxed. I'm going to turn off my picture for a moment, and we're going to do a progressive muscle relaxation. So just sit back in a chair, get comfortable. If you want to lie down, if you're at home, you can do that as well. So progressive muscle relaxation is an exercise that relaxes your mind and body by progressively tensing and relaxing muscle groups throughout your entire body. You will tense each muscle group vigorously, but without straining, and then suddenly release the tension and feel the muscle relax. You will tense each muscle for about 5 seconds. If you have any pain or discomfort at any of the targeted muscle groups, feel free to omit that step. Throughout this exercise, you may visualize the muscles tensing and a wave of relaxation flowing over them as you release that tension. It is important that you keep breathing throughout the exercise. Now let's begin. Begin by finding a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down in a location where you will not be interrupted. Allow your attention to focus only on your body. If you begin to notice your mind wandering, bring it back to the muscle group you are working on. Take a deep breath through your abdomen, hold for a few seconds, and exhale slowly. Again, as you breathe, notice your stomach rising and your lungs filling with air. Hold and release. As you exhale, imagine the tension in your body being released and flowing out of your body. And again, inhale, hold 2, 3, 4, and exhale. Feel your body already relaxing. As you go through each step, remember to keep breathing. Now let's begin. Tighten the muscles in your forehead by raising your eyebrows as high as you can. Hold for about 5 seconds. And abruptly release, feeling that tension fall away. Now smile widely, feeling your mouth and cheeks tense. Hold it. Keep it in place. Hold, tight, 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 and release, appreciating the softness in your face. And just breathe. Next, tighten your muscles by squinting your eyelids tightly shut. Hold, squeeze them tight, and release. Feel the difference. Now gently pull your head back as if to look at the ceiling. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and release, feeling the tension melting away. Now feel the weight of your relaxed head and neck sink. Breathe in and out. In and out. Let go of all the stress. In and out. Now tightly, but without straining, clench your fists and hold this position until I say stop. Hold it, and release. Feel the difference. And just breathe. And feel the relaxation. Now flex your biceps. Feel that buildup of tension. You may even visualize that muscle tightening. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and release. Enjoying that feeling of limpness. Breathe in and out. Now tighten your triceps by extending your arms out and locking your elbows. Hold for about 5 seconds. Tight, 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 and release. Breathe in and out. Now lift your shoulders up as if they could touch your ears. Hold it, tight, 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 and quickly release. Feel the release. Tense your upper back by pulling your shoulders back, trying to make your shoulder blades touch. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and release. And just breathe. Feel the relaxation. Now tighten your chest by taking a deep breath in, hold for about 5 seconds, and exhale, blowing out all the tension. Now tighten the muscles in your stomach by sucking your stomach in. Try and touch your backbone. Hold it, hold it, hold it, tight, 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 and release. Whew, feel the relaxation. Now gently arch your lower back. Hold for about 5 seconds and relax. Feel the limpness in your upper body, letting go of the tension and stress. Hold it for a little bit and relax. Tighten your buttocks. Tight, 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 and release. Imagine your hips falling loose. Tighten your thighs by pressing your knees together, as if you were holding a penny between them. Hold it tight, 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 and release. Just let everything relax. Remember to breathe. Now flex your feet, pulling your toes up towards you and feeling the tension in your calves. Hold it, and relax. Feel the weight of your legs sinking down. curl your toes under, tensing your feet. Hold it, and release. Just enjoy that feeling of relaxation. Notice the difference between when things are tight and when they're relaxed. And just breathe. Now imagine a wave of relaxation slowly spreading through your body, beginning at your head and going all the way down to your feet. Feel the weight of your body. Notice the relaxation. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. And when you're ready, just wiggle your fingers and toes and bring yourself back into the room. And that's a progressive muscle relaxation. So I'll invite you to take a look on YouTube for a progressive muscle relaxation video that is the amount of time you want to spend on it, and find a voice that you find soothing or easy to listen to. They can range really in times of anything from like 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So find one that's good for you. Progressive muscle relaxation is really good at getting our bodies ready for sleep. So a really good tool to add to your toolbox in learning how to deal with improved sleep. So try doing this in the evening to help slow your mind down, relax your body, and help yourself to create an inviting sleep atmosphere. So back to our work. Review of sleep diaries. How many of you thoroughly enjoyed doing your sleep diaries? If you were here with me, I would expect to be hearing some of you saying, wow, I really learned some new things about my sleep. I didn't realize, right? And there'd be a myriad of different things that people would suddenly be realizing about their sleep. And other people might be saying, I find it really difficult to do. It's hard to remember. I would say pair it with something. Pair it with your morning coffee. Pair it with reading the paper or when you do your morning stretch, right? But hopefully those sleep diaries become part of your habit, because you're going to need them, and you're going to need some of that information today. So I hope you were finding some success. Behavioral experiments. What did you try? Were you successful? Pat yourself on the back if you were able to discover some things, and don't worry if you got stuck, right? This is all experimental, and it's really about learning about yourself and your sleep. Because if you remember from session 1, I said we are all different and unique, and we all have different needs. So just know that you're growing and learning, and it's all good. So we're gonna do some more learning about sleep today. Gets a little bit trickier today. So what controls sleep? We have two competing systems. We have something called our sleep drive, and we have something called our body clocks. So these two systems are really the heart of sleep regulation, and they are balancing sleep promoting and alertness promoting factors. Your sleep is controlled by these two systems that interact to promote sleep and alertness at appropriate times and in appropriate quantities: the body clock and the sleep driver. The body clock that regulates sleep is one of the many internal clocks that control the timing of your bodily systems. The sleep driver system is a homeostatic system, meaning it balances how much time you spend awake and active with how much time you spend asleep or resting. We'll talk a little bit more about these because they're really important things, right? The sleep driver and the body clock, right? They're important to us. The sleep drive is the amount, your sleep drive is the amount of pressure to go to sleep your body produces at any given point during a 24-hour period. It's based on how much time you spend awake and active in that 24-hour period. The less active you are, right, or the less time you spend awake and out of bed, right, being busy, the more diminished your sleep drive is going to be, right, because you're not going to need to sleep. You haven't done anything. Your body produces sleepy cues when there's a true drive. The stronger your sleep drive, the easier it will be to sleep, and the more deep sleep you'll produce. The deep sleep produced after long periods of activity or wakefulness is called the slow wave drive, which mainly occurs in the first half of the night. You may be asking yourself, but I'm already sleep deprived, so why isn't my body producing enough sleep drive, right? Or why isn't it stronger, right? So let's look at how this balancing system deals with sleep loss. After being awake for a longer than normal period, you typically will sleep longer and more deeply than usual. Although you may not recover all of the sleep that you lose, you recover much of the lost deep sleep. You may or may not be aware that you're sleeping more deeply. But if we were to measure your brain waves, right, we hooked you up to all those little wires that we saw in that other clip from the other day, you would see deeper sleep. So you have to remember that it's the quantity or the quality of sleep that's really important, and it's not the same as quantity. 6 hours of quality, uninterrupted sleep feels much better than 9 hours of broken, light sleep. So the focus is really going to be on producing consistent, good quality sleep rather than increasing just your sheer number of sleep, right? We don't want to just increase your hours and not have you waking up feeling rested and restored and energized, right? So it's not about the quantity, it's really about the quality. That's going to be our focus. The body sleep system has the ability to make up for times when you don't get the amount of sleep you really need. When someone has an occasional poor night of sleep, the next night adjusts. The body adjusts and produces deep sleep to try and balance things out. Many people with insomnia make changes in their sleep habits, though, because we try to compensate. We try to compensate for that poor sleep, right? And then they develop performance anxiety about sleep, right? So if you're tired from lost sleep, it often makes sense to us, right, when we're thinking about this, that if I'm already exhausted, I probably should go to bed early and spend more time in bed to make up for it, right? Unfortunately, those habits undermine the balancing system, right? So spending increased amounts of time in bed, right, whether you're just resting or you're napping or you're sleeping in or you're going to bed earlier, sends the body a message that less sleep is needed. Remember, a strong sleep drive is based on how much time you spend awake and active in a 24-hour period. So although those adjustments that, we make ourselves seem logical and sensible when we've lost sleep, they can actually contribute to the sleep problem. So make sure that you're not doing things to backfire, your progress. So when you're looking from the perspective of the sleep driver, what should you do when you've had a poor night's sleep? What should you do? Nothing. You should just stick to your regular schedule, right? Did you know that losing sleep one night has a positive effect on the next night's sleep? Right? Because if you remember, the sleep driver tries to balance between how much time you spend awake and how much time you spend asleep. This means that the sleep driver pushes more strongly for sleep the longer you're awake and active during the day. But also, if you're awake during the night, the driver will push for sleep the next night to compensate. It'll be that deeper sleep, right? So you really want to have that build up, right? And unfortunately, in insomnia, people undermine the power of the sleep driver when they try to make up for the lost sleep, because these attempts to make up for the lost sleep result in that extra time in bed. And then we kind of lose the ability to sleep because we're kind of working against ourselves, right? So remember, as your day goes on, it's kind of like a bank account. You're building up that need for sleep. If you look at this lovely little chart here, right? Each hour of wakefulness increases your sleep drive, right? The longer we stay awake, the stronger our sleep drive is. So things like making sure we eat well, making sure we get daylight, making sure we're physically active when possible, right? Then we have the body clock, right? Which often, we also talk about circadian rhythm. That's kind of your body clock. And it kind of regulates the timing of sleepiness and awakeness during the day, right? So people really differ, right? With respect to when they feel at their best and most alert, and when they feel sleepy and their bodies naturally produce optimal sleep. This difference among people is normal. Like for yourself, you might say, you know what? I really struggle to stay up until 10, right? I hear this a lot. It's hard for me to stay up till 10 o'clock at night, right? Whereas, maybe your friends have problems going to bed before midnight, right? They're like, oh, it's too early, right? So as long as your type of body clock doesn't cause significant problems in your day-to-day life, right? It doesn't cause you concern or make it difficult for you to function at work or school, right? Or in your home, then there's really no reason for concern. Most people aren't extremely morning-like or evening-like. They kind of fall somewhere in the middle. So if you're curious to find out where you fall on this spectrum, just take a look at, early birds and night owls, right? The other differences are there's those sort of natural differences, right? So in addition to those differences, there's also natural aging related differences. This is where people sometimes don't always love me, right? Because there's differences related to our age for morningness and eveningness, right? Have you ever noticed that babies and young children are more morning-like than adults? Young children tend to become they become sleepy long before the adults are ready to go to bed, right? Lots of adults are happy about that. Good, we get some time on our own. But they also wake up much earlier than the adults. Or have you ever noticed that teenagers go to bed much later and rise much later, when they were younger, right? Many adults are exacerbated by how early their young child wakes them in the morning, and equally frustrated by how late their teens stay in bed, right? Because they often stay in bed till like noon on the weekends when they can. In actuality, their children are probably not trying to deliberately annoy their parents with their sleep habits. It just really reflects their normal age-related variations in the body clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness. We can try to make teens go to bed early or young kids sleeping late, but it doesn't work, right? Because we're not taking into account the biological process that's at work. We're not taking into account the underlying body clock. It's really hard to shift it. Sleep experts have tried to persuade school boards to adjust schedules for kids and stuff, but it doesn't work, right? So it's just how it is. So just as teens experience a shift towards later bedtimes and rise times, as we age, our body clocks naturally shift us towards earlier bedtimes and earlier rise times, right? TV and movies frequently parody older adults' tendency to become early birds, right? Younger and middle-aged adults often complain that they have to go out for dinner with their parents at like 4:30, right? 5 o'clock, because they can't stay up that late, right? My friend was saying, yeah, her son was looking at scheduling. They were down south scheduling a golf game with his older uncle. And the older uncle was like, how about like a 5 o'clock tee off time or 5:30? And he was like, in the morning? He didn't think there was such a time, right? So always kind of those mismatches, right? And sometimes there's a mismatch between a person's body clock and behavior, and those can unintentionally create difficulties during both sleeping and waking times. So you really have to help your body, help your body clock reset every day, right? Our body clocks aren't exactly 24 hours long. So there's a tiny bit of drift, right? Things tend to kind of move. So imagine if your alarm clock lost a little bit of time each day, right? Eventually there might be hours of discrepancy between the real time and the time displayed on the alarm clock. And since we use clocks to schedule our activities, it's optimal that our body clocks match the clock on the wall as close as possible. So there's several ways that we can set our clock, right? And offset the drifting process. The most potent of which is proper timing of sunlight exposure. So we really want to be able to navigate that, right? The body clock's control center is deep inside our brain, right? But it really receives information from nerves in our eyes. So that's why the nerves, right, get exposed to the sunlight, sends a message to your internal body clock about the presence or absence of sunlight, right? So exposing yourself to sunlight or daylight during the first hours of the morning helps to set your body clock for an earlier rise time and an earlier bedtime. Exposing yourself to daylight during the last hours of sunlight helps to set your body clock for a later bedtime and a later rise time. So be aware of that, right? That's sometimes a little bit of an experiment you can try for yourself, right? Either getting exposed earlier in the day or later in the day, depending where you might want to shift or accommodate for that drift. Two prime examples of good sleepers, cats and babies. So that sleep-wake cycle, right? It really is a two-process model, right? We have that circadian rhythm, right? That circadian alerting system, which is kind of going up, and you'll see your melatonin increases, which is why some people take melatonin in the evening, right? Because you want it to build up overnight. That's part of that rhythm, right? And you'll see it kind of peaks around, 3 and 4, and then it kind of decreases as the morning light comes up. And you also then, of course, have your homeostatic sleep drive. And look, when they're working together, it's a beautiful thing. So that's really, what we aspire to. So you may, when you think about what I've just talked about, you may notice that you fit into one of the main categories, that either you're standard phase, right? You're kind of somewhere in the middle, or you're more of an advanced phase, you're a morning person, or you're a bit of a delayed phase, you're a night owl. Do you know which one you are? Right? So if you're delayed phase, it's hard for you to go to bed early, right? You tend to stay up later. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to fall asleep. You're not sleepy till much later. And then early in the morning, harder to wake up. And you'll see your drift kind of goes almost until noon, right? If you're not watching it. Standard phase, kind of goes to bed around 11, up by 6 or 7. Let's go. Just in the middle. It's where most of us want to be. We don't always have a choice. And then sometimes, we're more of an early bird. So, kind of like around 7 o'clock, we're starting to slow down. Things are getting quieter, right? If we can make it till 11, right? We're trying not to fall asleep between that 6 to 10 zone. It's often where people rest their eyes. So try not to do that, right? We go to bed, we wake up super early. When we get that drift, you see what happens. See where you fit on that scale. So what do we do about it? Well, here's where some work comes in, and this is where we're going to need your sleep diaries. So if you have your sleep diaries, get them ready, please. So this is where we do something called stimulus control, right? Where we're going to try and take some control back, working with your body clock and your sleep drive. So stimulus control, these are behavioral instructions. So things that you do, right? If you remember our cognitive behavior therapy model, we had how we think, how we feel, and what we do, our behaviors. So these are behavioral instructions aimed at strengthening the association between your bed and sleep and preventing the conditioning of you to associate the bed with other stimulating activities. I hear all kinds of stories. People tell me, oh, I love going to bed. I watch TV, I read my book, I have my snack, I have a glass of wine, right? We're not doing that now. Now we're entering a time, and remember, this will be temporary, where the only thing we're going to do, we're going to associate our bed with only sleep. Okay? So we're trying to strengthen that association between our bed and sleep. So we're going to avoid all non-sleep activities in the bedroom. We're going to go to bed only when we're sleepy. And if we're unable to fall asleep at night, once we've gotten into bed to go to sleep, if we're unable to fall asleep after about 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to get out of bed and go do something else, nothing too exciting, but we're going to leave the room and we're only going to come back to bed when we are sleepy tired. So here we go. The rules. The first one is sleepy tired rule. Only go to bed if you feel sleepy, which is different than fatigued. If you are not sleepy enough, you can end up lying awake in bed, which breaks down the connection between bed and sleep. So try and stay up until you feel sleepy tired rather than just tired, okay? We're going to have the quarter of an hour rule. If you do not fall asleep after about 15 minutes, it's really important for you to get out of bed and go into another room, because that will get you out of the habit of lying in bed and feeling frustrated. Only return to the bed when you feel sleepy tired. Okay? Sleepy tired, you go to bed. Make sure you don't count down with a clock. Just estimate about 15 minutes. I don't want you to be a clock watcher. Your best guess. No napping. So daytime naps weaken the association between nighttime sleep and your bed. These pockets of sleep also lead to more fragmented sleep during the night. As well, napping in other locations, like in your chair or the couch, weakens the link between your bed and sleep. If you absolutely have to nap, like due to issues of safety, maybe you have to operate some kind of equipment, or you have to drive, or you're taking care of young kids, right? Limit your naps to 20 to 30 minutes and make sure it's over before 3 p.m. Okay? Because if you nap longer than that, it resets your body clock. And it's like you just woke up and it's breakfast all over. So no more than 30 minutes tops. 20 is preferable. The other rule, sleep and sex. Your bed and bedroom should not be used for any activity other than sleep, right? No watching TV, no reading in bed. Be prepared to sleep as soon as you get in bed. Sexual activity is the only exception, and it often helps us sleep afterwards. So now you have some of the rules. Now, this is where we all become mathematicians. Don't worry, it's not so bad, right? I'll walk you through it. So what we need to do is we need to calculate our average total sleep time. So we're going to do this by checking our sleep diaries and figuring out how much time you actually sleep during the night. So do not take into account the many minutes you spend tossing and turning We are talking about actual time spent asleep. So we're going to use the following formula to determine the ideal amount of time you should be in bed each night. So to determine your average sleep time, your time in bed, equals your average total sleep time plus 30 minutes. That looks not too bad. Looks kind of easy. So your total time in bed, right? That's the difference between the time you got into bed and the time you got out of bed in the morning, right? So we're going to calculate that times 60. So here on Monday, I was in bed for 8.5 hours, right? Times 60, 510. On Tuesday, I was in bed for 7.75 hours, times 60, 465, right? I think you get the drift, right? Wednesday, I was in bed for 9 hours, times 60, 540, right? Thursday, 8.75 hours, 525. So calculate that for yourself every day of the week. Next, you're going to calculate the average amount of time in bed by adding the numbers above and dividing them by the number of nights. So I have 7 nights. So I add up all my numbers and I divide by 7, which gives me 512. I don't really know how many 512 minutes are. So if I divide by 60, it will convert to hours for me. So 512 divided by 60 is 8.5 hours. So my average amount of time in bed is 8.5 hours. So next, I need to calculate my total time spent awake during the night, right? So maybe I'm in bed for 8.5 hours, but I'm awake during the night. So I look at my time to fall asleep plus my time awake during the night. And I'm going to add those two numbers together. And you'll see on Monday, it took me 30 minutes to fall asleep. And then I was awake for 45 minutes during the night for a total of 75 minutes. Tuesday, it took me 90 minutes to fall asleep. And I was awake for 60 minutes during the night. Wednesday took me 120 minutes to fall asleep. I was awake for 90 during the night. Thursday only took me 15. It was a great night. Only awake for 14, right? Oops, that's actually 29, not 30. Friday, 30 minutes to fall asleep, 45 minutes up. So you kind of get the drift there. So add those two numbers for each day. Then we're going to calculate our time awake in the morning. So the difference between the time I got out of bed and the time I woke up. So again, times 60. Here's my numbers, 3.23 and 3.25 hours times 60, 1.5 hours times 60, right? 15 minutes, right? Times 60, right? You get the drift. A little bit more, stay with me, please. Then our total time awake in bed. So we take 2A plus 2B, right? So there's our numbers and here's our calculations. Add them together for every day of the week. A little bit more. So our total sleep time is our total time in bed, which is number 1, minus our total time awake in bed, which is 2C, right? So here we go. Whoops, sorry about that. So 510 minutes minus 270 equals 240, right? 465 minus 240 is 225. 540 minus 225 is 315. So then what we're going to do is we're going to calculate our total average sleep time, right? So our total sleep time for all days. So you take all those numbers and you divide by 7 days, which is 296 minutes. And I'm going to divide by 60 to get hours, right? To convert it to hours. So it's just under 5 hours. I get 4.93 hours of sleep a night. So almost 5. So what this tells us is my body regularly produces about 5 hours of good sleep. But I spend around 8.5 hours in bed every night. So my target, if you remember our formula, should be about 5.5 hours in bed each night. I'm producing 5 hours of sleep plus 30, right? So 5.5 hours, right? It's time in bed is average total sleep time plus 30 minutes. So that is what I need. So here's an example of somebody else's sleep diary. You'll see their calculations. You can always come back to this if it's helpful to you. So what do we do with that? So if you know you have 5.5 hours in bed, and your time will be different than my time. So if I know I have 5.5 hours of good sleep time, and that's what I'm aiming to be in bed for, the first place we start now is deciding on a rise time. So I have to pick a reasonable morning rise time, right? Because I have to be able to accomplish all my daily activities, and I want it to be close to my normal weekday rising time, right? So I don't want to pick 8 o'clock as a rise time if I have to start work at 8, right? Because I can't sleep in Monday to Friday. So you pick a rise time that you're going to stick with 7 days a week, okay? Remember, this is temporary, but pick a rise time. I'll say 7 a.m. So then you pick your calculation, right? So you look at, oops, I have a slightly different example. I switched my example here. So my bedtime calculation. So you subtract your average sleep time from your morning rise time. So in this example, my average sleep time, I said, is 6 hours and 15 minutes plus 30. And I want a rise time of 7 a.m. So if I'm allowed 6 hours and 45 minutes in this example, that means I have to go to bed. I have to stay up until 12:15. So that's how it's going to be for the next few weeks. I have to go to bed at 12:15 and get up every single day at 7 a.m. Okay. And the most important piece of this is I have to get up at 7 a.m. and I cannot go to bed before 12:15. I can go to bed after 12:15, but I can't go to bed before it. So how do I get more time in bed? Because really, it's going to be hard for me to stay up till 12:15, right? I say, try to plan some activities in the evening to keep yourself busy, right? And maybe I need to start exposing myself to daylight late in the day, right before sunset, getting a couple of hours or an hour of sunlight before the sun goes down, because that's going to push my, right? If you remember, it's going to push my clock, to going to bed later. So how else can I do it, right? I have to increase my time in bed. So once you're effectively sleeping through the night, the ultimate goal of sleep scheduling is to expand your sleep window to the amount you need. Because really, the amount I'm giving myself right now through this sleep restriction is small, because I'm trying to consolidate my sleep. I'm trying to get it all together. And then the goal is to expand it, to get more till it's the right amount. So we shrink the time in bed. We might have a little bit of tiredness that week, but it's going to be okay. Stick with it, right? Stick with it. Okay, let's try it. Calculate, decide what your rise time is going to be. Count backwards from how much time in bed you're allowed. and that will be your bedtime. Plan some kind of strategy to keep yourself awake during the evening and try and stick to it as best you can. Continue to keep your sleep diaries. Okay, let's get started. This is where the real work starts. So, show right there we go. So in the morning, here's our sleep-wake checklist. In the morning, you're going to be waking up at the same time each morning. You are going to allow yourself 30 minutes to be fully awake, right? Because you might wake up feeling groggy. That's okay. Still get out of bed though, and know that it might be 30 minutes before you start to wake up a bit. Allow time for your personal hygiene, right? So brushing your teeth, skincare, etc. Try to get daylight exposure early in the day. Try to be physically active. Try for about 30 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be really intense, even just walking a bit, stretching, right? Whatever you can add to your day. I suggest to people, if you're a caffeine drinker, watch how much, and don't have caffeine after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Some of us, it's noon, right? But 2 o'clock for most people seems to work. And try not to nap. If you have to, limit it to 20 to 30 minutes in the early afternoon. Try to be done with napping by 3 o'clock. In the evening, you're going to make sure you go to bed around the same time each night. If you have like a really big night, maybe you have to go to a party or a wedding or something, and yeah, I'm going to be up really late on Saturday night, or maybe really early, still get up at your same wake up time. If you think about what we talked about earlier, your body will take care of it. And when you go to bed that night, you will get good sleep quality, right? You'll get that deep sleep that you need. So go to bed at the same time each night if you can. Budget 30 minutes for wind down time. A lot for personal hygiene. Give yourself time to brush your teeth, do your skincare, right? All those things. Dim the lights. Start to have your lights be a bit dimmer. Unplug from electronics, right? Turn off your TV, get rid of your phone, get rid of your tablets, right? At least, it says 30 here. I always say 60 minutes before sleep. Again, there are some individual differences. Use a relaxation technique, some meditation, some progressive muscle relaxation, some breathing, some mindfulness to help you get in that space where you're relaxed enough to sleep. Avoid liquids or heavy foods before you go to bed. You don't want to be hungry, but you don't want to be too full either. So next week on your own, after you have completed 1 week of sleep restriction, right? So 1 week of getting up at the same time every day and trying to go to bed around the same time every night, please calculate your sleep efficiency. It's not as hard as you might think, even for those of us who might be a bit math shy. Wait, what is sleep efficiency and why do we care about it? Well, sleep efficiency is the percentage of time spent in bed actually sleeping. This is really important stuff. So how do we calculate it? More math, just stay with me. So first we take our total sleep time for each day that week, right? So here's my total sleep time. I got 45 hours of sleep total, right? And here's next, we add the time in bed for each day, which was 60 hours. So it's total sleep time divided by time in bed times 100. So I'm at 75% sleep efficiency. Doesn't sound too bad, but we're trying to do just a little bit better. So here's what you need to know with sleep efficiency. You're going to earn more time in bed once your sleep efficiency reaches 90%. Once it gets to 90% for 1 week, you can go to bed 15 minutes earlier every week. So eventually, this process will reach a point where you will be sleeping as much as you absolutely need to. You're probably not there yet, and that's normal, right? Because it really usually takes people a few weeks of sleep scheduling for a new sleep pattern to kind of stabilize. So you won't be there yet, but that's okay. Be kind to yourself, right? We're all a work in progress. If you're totally lost, you hate math, right? I say, here's a little cheat. Google Sync into Sleep, lovely website. On the far right-hand side, click on Forms, click on to Sleep Efficiency, and it will automatically calculate for you. But remember, we want a full week. Don't calculate just per day. So we have 6 steps to solid sleep, right? So if you want to really change your sleep and get better quality and feel more rested and rejuvenated, you're going to go to bed only when sleepy and not before your threshold bedtime. You're going to maintain a regular threshold rise time in the morning. So get up the same time every day. You're going to use your bed only for sleeping. Sex is the only exception. Do not watch TV, listen to music, news, no electronic devices, don't eat or read in bed. If you want to have a chair in your bedroom that you do that in, that's fine, but you get into bed when you're sleepy tired to sleep. Leave the bed if you can't fall asleep or go back to sleep within kind of 10 to 15 minutes. Return when sleepy. Repeat this step as often as you need to during the night. If sleepiness is overwhelming, you may take a short nap for really 20 to 30 minutes in the afternoon before 3 p.m. and maintain your sleep diary. Got those? This will bring you success. Looks pretty easy. Good luck. It's not that bad. It's very doable. Just takes time. Be kind to yourself. The good news is that research has shown that sleep restriction therapy is the most effective sleep hygiene technique available. It works as well as medication with a longer lasting effect. It takes several weeks of diligent dedication to alter your sleep schedule in order to see results. So that's why I said, remember, this is all temporary, but it has good results, and you're going to be so happy when you're sleeping better. You may feel sleepier and experience more disrupted sleep initially, but stick with it, and your insomnia and sleep problems will improve. So remember, for our telephone check-ins, I'll call you between 1 and 3:30. Calls will be pretty quick. They'll last only probably 10 to 15 minutes of your time. Please check your initial email to determine your telephone check-in times. And if something goes wrong and you don't get a call, don't fret. Choose another behavioral experiment. Keep filling in your sleep diaries. Keep doing your sleep efficiencies and follow the rules. You've completed another CBT for Insomnia online session. Congratulations. Have a great week. I hope you get some really good results. I hope you learn some things, and I wish you some improved sleep. Hopefully coming soon. All right. Take care. We'll see you soon.